I recently had a wonderful time with Marshawn Lynch, right? You know who he is? So, okay, it's okay. I didn't know either, but he's like a famous football player. He's known as the Beast. And apparently he came down to the stock exchange to do something. They had sort of spoke to him for a while, and then they realized that maybe they should sort of toss him over to me. He grabbed me, and we sat down on the floor, and we started doing this beat your chest like Wolf of Wall Street.
Who the f*** am I to tell you what to do with your money?
My name is Priya Malani, currently managing millions of hardworking dollars. Enough foreplay. Let's talk money. Welcome to the F word. Smart money.
No bull.
Hi everyone, welcome to the F word. I'm Priya Malani, and today I get to record from the absolutely historic and stunning New York Stock Exchange. This is so cool to be here. I'm up on the balcony overlooking the trading floor, and the bell rang just a few hours ago. Today, I get to introduce you to somebody insanely impressive, someone who I've known for over a decade, most photographed stockbroker in the entire world. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, the historic and also stunning
photogenic
Einstein of Wall Street. Thank you so much for being here. Oh my God, you're so amazing. I'm so happy. So just before we get into the good stuff,
Yes.
how long have you actually been here?
I've been here for 137 years. I actually went to high school with Alexander Hamilton and George Washington. They're both buried over at the cemetery across behind Trinity Church, and I'm still here.
You're holding down the fort.
And
You're holding on. I love it. I love it.
I just celebrated 40 years. It's funny because they just put up a photograph from when Ronald Reagan rang the opening bell, which was March 28th, 1985. It turned out that was the first day that I started my summer internship here.
So speaking of Ronald Reagan, so many amazing people have walked across this floor, from Serena Williams to Snooki, from Betty White to Nelson Mandela. You have got.
I always say Teddy Roosevelt to DJ Khaled. That's my span.
Okay, so on that note, I am dying to know, who is the most exciting person you feel you've gotten to meet?
Okay, so there are a lot. I would say Sean Connery, for me, right? That. James Bond, like one of my celebrity crush type people. He was amazing. He was a little bit drunk, and that was kind of fun. You know, James Bond, like it doesn't get cooler than that.
Oh, it does not.
And then I would say, look, there have been some really fun sports people.
Personal mentors.
I always sort of have this fun interaction because, some of them know who I am, some of them don't, but I will just sort of lay the groundwork out. So like Donny Osmond, for instance, right?
Wow.
So Donny Osmond came down here, and he didn't know who I was at all. And I was not as well known back then, but I just walked up to him with this funny, I said, Donny Bubala, I love you. And I gave him this big kiss, and he was just completely thrown off, and he went with it. He sort of ran with the flow, and we sort of like hugged and kissed and had this fun moment.
I can't tell if you're more excited to meet all these celebrities or they're more excited to get photographed with you.
You know what? Some have been one way and some have been the other.
I believe
I got Christy Brinkley and I doing like a
big deal.
Dance from Studio 54, Robert Downey Jr. That was super exciting. And then some people are just a little sort of self-impressed. I recently had a wonderful time with Marshawn Lynch. Right, you know who he is? So, okay, it's okay. I didn't know either, but he's like a famous football player. He's known as the Beast. And apparently he came down to the stock exchange to do something. They had sort of spoke to him for a while, and then they realized that maybe they should sort of toss him over to me. He grabbed me, and we sat down on the floor, and we started doing this beat your chest like Wolf of Wall Street moment, and we talked about trading. And if you Google me, you'll see it's in the thousands already. But, so many fun, actors of history, CEOs, of great corporations, celebrity sports people that have just like,
that is so
cool. Yeah, it is quite cool.
You get to meet amazing people. You are also famous. You're known as the most photographed stockbroker in the entire world. One of the many things you're famous for.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, besides this accolade of most photographed, you're in every single finance and business newspaper. Yeah. What is the thing that you say you're most famous for? Your hair?
Yes. I would imagine that is, and it's funny. So there was Aaron Burnett, who's on CNN, right? And a guy named Mark Haynes, who they were used to both be on CNBC. And they were on the floor. Erin Burnett is actually the first person to actually call me Einstein. And she and Mark Haynes used to stand outside the stock exchange every morning, and I would walk in, and he would always say to me that if I'm having a good hair day, then the stock market was going to go up. So it was like a barometer for whether the market was going to go up. If I'm having a good hair day, the market was going to go up or down. And so I kind of carried that with it. So my hair has been always really important to me. When I was 18, I had like hair to here. I had like an 18-inch ponytail. I can show you that picture if you want. It's been a big deal. And then there was a time where my hair was getting a little bit more than Wall Street was willing to accept. It was like back in the 80s, and they were a little bit more conservative. No, they sort of bitched at me for a while, and they said, I think it's time you cut your hair. And I said, if you raise $25,000 for charity, I'll shave my head on the floor of the stock exchange. Mistake. Never test the people on the floor of the stock exchange. They handed me
highly competitive
$25,000 the next day, and they made me shave my head on the floor of the stock exchange. There used to be a barber here named Gino, and a little Italian guy, did not speak a word of English, and we had our own barber shop here. It was one of the old chairs, right? And so they took me in there, and I shaved my head, and we filmed it, and I gave the money to UNICEF and a bunch of other charities. The fun part of it was, besides the fact it was traumatic for me to lose all my hair, was that it started a tradition where all of the Billy Johnson, who was governor of the stock exchange, and the guy named Tommy Kaye, all these guys started shaving their heads to raise money, and it became
That's so cool.
So we ended up raising almost $1 million over about 4 or 5 other people who cut their hair.
That is awesome. Okay, so take us back a little bit. We want to hear your story. How did you end up here? Did you have a degree in finance? How did that all shake out? How did you end up here back in the 80s?
So, a long story how I got here. So my parents came here in 1949. They survived a concentration camp. They ended up falling in love in a displaced persons camp. My father went to medical school in Germany after the war, came to America, and had me and my brother. And then so I grew up on the Upper West Side in New York. I ended up going to Riverdale Country School, which was like fancy high school. It wasn't I first went to public school, and then things got a little rough there, so they put me in this nice fancy private school. I ended up getting a degree in agriculture. Was my first degree, which is sort of strange. I don't really know where that came from. I had lived in Israel for a year after high school, and I kind of got into whatever. And so my first degree was at University of Massachusetts in agriculture, and then after 2 years, I had a way older brother who my father had adopted during the war, and he was a big Wall Street guy.
Oh.
And he sort of decided, he said, you know what, enough of this agriculture stuff. You're a Wall Street person, and you get yourself a degree in finance. You can come work with me. So once I was done with the first degree, I ended up getting a degree in international finance and business and accounting. I hated accounting, and I flunked economics. So I graduated, and I moved back to New York from college, and I started trading commodities.
Here or at the Mercantile?
No, actually just at home. I was just trading them myself. And I opened up a record store in New York because music was a big thing for me. I was big into jazz, and during college I was managing jazz bands all over the world. And so that was another one of I was always sort of a hustler and an entrepreneur. I used to sell like t-shirts at Grateful Dead shows and all kinds of crazy wild stuff.
My God.
Anyway, so I was getting a master's in business at Baruch in New York. I was running this record store. I was trading commodities, and I was the doorman at Studio 54. And so that was a big deal.
Not where I expected the story to go.
And so all of that sort of ended up crashing and burning at one point. It was the 80s. It was a wild and crazy time.
Yeah.
And so it was time for me to get out of Dodge. And so I had a friend who was running an oil company in West Africa. And I figured I would get as far away from here as possible. So I got on a plane and I went there. On the way there, that was just when computers started. So I had to kind of make believe I was something. So we made believe I was a computer specialist. And I've actually never told the story this way before. So the first book on computers was this thing, Lotus 123. It was like the first spreadsheet. I read the book, and I arrived in West Africa. I was a computer specialist, and I did that for about a year and a half. And it was amazing. It was, West Africa was incredible. It was called the People's Republic of Benin. And then after a year and a half, it was like kind of time to put on my big boy pants. And so I came back to New York. And
how old were you at this time?
I'm 25.
Wow.
And my father had a patient who was a partner at Cowan & Company, which is a firm on the floor. He was a well-known doctor, and he had a number of patients who were on the floor of the stock exchange. The market maker in AT&T was his patient. So anyway, he sort of got them all together and said, let's get this kid on the floor. They could tell that it was sort of the atmosphere that I would thrive in. And so I got a summer job as a teletypist on March 28, 1985. That was my first day here, and it was the day Ronald Reagan rang the opening bell. The minute I walked onto the floor, and that was like the heart of the open outcry auction, screaming and yelling. That was 85. So
Yeah,
things
I can't
were,
imagine.
there were 7,000 people in this room. There were 4 other trading rooms, the blue room, the expanded blue room. It was just the heart of the wild days on Wall Street. And I loved it. Like, I thrived on the chaos, screaming and yelling just made me
You were
happy.
like, this is where I belong.
Exactly. And I knew it the minute I walked on the floor. I said, this is an environment and energy that's just perfect for me. That was it. And that was just the beginning of, then 40 years later.
And
here
the
we are.
rest is history. That is such a cool and colorful story. I'm like blown away. Okay, so this podcast is for ambitious professionals who basically want to get their financial shit together in their 30s so they don't have to play catch up in their 40s. If you had to look back over your Wall Street career and come up with like one bit of personal financial advice that you would go back and give your 30-year-old self, I know you're not too much farther
No,
along
not
from
much.
there,
Yeah.
but what would you tell yourself in your 30s that you wish you could tell all the people out there, do this now?
Okay, so, not only am I a trader on the floor, but in the last 5 or so years, I've sort of taken to social media, and a big part of what I do is inspire and motivate young people, the new next generation of traders. I run an academy with my partner, David Green, teaching people to trade the market. And so I do a lot of speaking to high school students, college students. And so one of the shticks I do is say, and it's not my line, it was a thing I learned from a guy on the
Let me
floor
guess.
named Fabian.
Stop buying stuff?
No, right. Invest in stocks, not stock.
Invest in stocks, not stock.
And it's a great line. It's kind of a mindset. We are the greatest consumer generation in the world. We love to buy stuff, right? You'll see something on Instagram, you have to have it. You'll pay twice more what it costs to buy the thing just to get it here yesterday because we want what we want when we want it, right? Immediate gratification. And so if you think about it, the whole idea behind it was, and I'm not endorsing Apple at all, but the idea was to think about it when, if you have an iPhone 12 and it's not broken, but the 13 comes out, you have to have it. Right. And so if you think about it, if every time a new iPhone came out and I didn't buy it, but instead I went out and bought a few shares of Apple stock, the minute we buy the iPhone, it goes down. We spend $1,000. It goes down in value. Right. And most of the stuff we buy goes down in value.
Right.
And
Depreciates.
So, exactly. So if I was my 20-year-old self, and think about all the money I've spent on things as opposed to just putting money in the stock market, like every week, every month, every year, and then sort of resist the urge to buy stuff that really I don't really need, right? An urge to buy something lasts about 20 minutes, right? Walk around the block, have a piece of chocolate.
Sleep on it.
You don't have
do that.
You don't have to have it.
Right.
And then there's a number that's thrown around that if one at the age of 18 were to put $250 a month into the S&P 500, right, which is, a basket of 500 stocks that trades here, which covers literally almost every stock that's in our lives on a daily basis, whether it's the computer we use, the phone we use, the sneakers we wear, the food we eat, it's all in there. So 18-year-old, $250 a month. By the age of 60, you'll have more than $1 million.
That's incredible.
Think about that. So 60-year-old part's not sexy, but $1 million part is very sexy. And so if you think about that, and we think about just putting money aside and letting it grow, like dollar cost averaging, then that's a big deal.
You're telling us slow and steady wins the race, and don't buy Nike sneakers, buy Nike stock.
Yes.
That is tremendous advice, and I concur.
Good. Concur? You concur? Yes, doctor, I concur.
It's from
Leonardo DiCaprio, right?
Yep.
Take the money. What was the movie?
Oh my gosh,
Great
what is
movie.
it?
Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can. Oh my God.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. So if people want to get involved with the Wall Street Global Trading Academy, where do they go?
Okay, so before COVID, in order for somebody to get involved in buying a trading stock, let's say, or involved in the stock market at all, you needed to be an accredited investor. What did that mean? That meant that you had to, like your parents or your grandparents, had to prove that the money they gave when they opened an account at Merrill Lynch or Smith Barney or whatever that was back in the old days, they had to prove that if they lost 100% of that money, it would have no effect on their standard of living for 5 years. That was what represented an accredited investor.
Yeah.
When COVID came along and Webull and Robinhood and all these free trading apps, suddenly all the barriers to entry were gone.
Diminished.
And everybody with an iPhone and $100 could can trade stock. Okay, so this guy David Green, who started on Wall Street with me in the same time in 1985, he went on to become a market maker. He got a big buyout, retired at the age of 38. We saw the opportunity that 50 million new retail traders came into the market during COVID. Everyone was sheltered at home.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone was getting a stimulus check. All eyes were on the stock market
Sure.
because of the meme phenomenon, because of any number of things. And then this accessibility happened to the stock market, so all eyes were on the stock market. But none of the companies that gave access to all these new potential investors and traders had any kind of an educational component to it.
Right.
So we decided to build one and build an academy called Wall Street Global Trading Academy. And we spent about 6 months putting this thing together, teaching technical analysis, right? We don't have the secret sauce on that. A lot of people do technical analysis.
Yeah.
We just have
It's a different
system.
strategy versus fundamental. This is technical.
Correct, and technicals are more often used for trading as opposed
Yes.
to investing. So we put together this course. It's 21 hours, 21 videos. We coach and mentor all our students. We have a boot camp. So these coaching and mentoring sessions, because no one else out there does that, we record them. They're in the archive. So there's literally 400 hours of archival content in the course.
awesome.
And you can just go to wsgta.com. We do boot camps. We do live free webinars every month. We do Trading the Opening Bell on our YouTube channel. So, if anybody is interested in learning how to trade the market or doing anything like that, we recently just partnered with a company called Apex Trader Funding, which is a futures platform where you can literally open an account for $33. They will give you 50,000 simulated dollars. You have to get qualified, which means you have to make $3,000 over a month to get what's called a paid account. And then when you trade, they will pay you 90%
Smart.
in real dollars what you made trading simulated dollars. They've paid out $500 million over the last 5 years to
shit.
people, right, who could never ever before trade the stock market.
Yeah, but
So
you prove
literally
yourself a
there's
little bit, and then
you commit. You show that you're committed to the program, and then they will let you trade, and they will pay you to trade.
That is
so
awesome.
there's no excuse for anybody to say anymore, I can't trade the market or I can't get involved. There's too many barriers to entry. Anybody with $33 can do it.
Can do
and
it.
If they reach out to me, I'll happily introduce them.
that's so cool. So if you're interested in trading versus investing,
Correct.
it's wsgta.com. And you're
Correct.
on YouTube, you're everywhere.
I'm everywhere.
Thank you. That was really, really awesome. We always end, Einstein, with a segment that I call Best Bite. I'm a huge foodie.
Okay.
And so I
As am
want to
I.
know. Perfect. Okay.
a huge foodie.
I want to know your recommendation of something you've eaten lately that is absolutely to die for, and you're sending me there right now. I have to go to this place. It can be in New York, but it could be anywhere across the
Okay.
country.
Ooh, across the country. No, let's stay in New York. Food was a big thing for me, right? I was a big foodie. I used to be in the food business. I invented a hot sauce back in the 80s on Wall Street. I used to give it out here, and it was voted a best of 1,000 hot sauces at the food show, and we had a lot of fun. It was called Johnny Wishbone's Secret Sauce. I ended up getting sued by Wishbone Salad Dressing. It shut my whole thing down. Anyway, so food's important to me. Unfortunately, though, I'm allergic to garlic.
Okay. Ooh,
Which is a
unfortunate.
miserable allergy.
Yeah.
So you literally can't go anywhere to eat. So it's a big deal. But anyway, there's a restaurant in Brooklyn called Taku Sando. It is a Japanese sandwich place.
Ooh.
So I found online, and they're like 4 sandwiches. One is like a crispy chicken sandwich. One is like a Japanese egg salad sandwich. One is a Wagyu beef sandwich. And one is like a codfish sandwich. So they come on this sort of Japanese white bread. It's really delicious with a bunch of sauces. And every sandwich is cut into 4, so you can sort of like spread the fun and everybody can get a taste of it. So I ordered it. I had the guy make it for me with no garlic. And he delivered it himself, the owner of the place. His name was Hisa. It was really spectacular. They're very popular. It was a great sandwich.
Taku Sando.
Taku
Sando.
The next thing I'll tell you about, which is super amazing, is Oishi strawberries. Have you heard of those? Okay, so this has been my new addiction.
Love.
Right. It's a shame because I've spent so much money. So I'm a huge
On gourmet strawberries.
on gourmet strawberries. So Oishi Strawberries is like a hydroponic strawberry company that just opened a couple of years ago. It's like the next level. It's called an omakase.
truly is.
An omakase strawberry. You can die for it. It's I don't know.
I get them for my
$3 a
nieces.
strawberry, but it's insane. But
It
it's
is.
delicious.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so
So
good.
those are my two bites.
I love, and they're both in my area. I can go to Taku Sando anytime I want, so
Yes,
I'm going to
you
make it
can.
over there.
Good.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you guys for joining the F Word. Please like, share, subscribe. We're trying to grow the show so that we can bring on more awesome guests. And, not a lot of people talk about money. So go out there, share this with your friends, and get more people talking about money and get your financial shit together in your 30s so you don't have to play catch up in your 40s. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. That's great. And that's all I got to say about that.
Thanks for listening to The F Word with Priya Malani. If you like what you heard, hit subscribe wherever you're listening and leave us a review while you're at it. We're approval junkies. Don't forget, you can find a ton of great resources, content, courses, and other freebies at stashwealth.com. Now, for the capital S stuff our lawyers want us to say. StashWealth is a registered investment advisor. Content presented is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to make an offer or solicitation for any specific securities, product, service, or strategy. Consult with a qualified investment advisor, that's us, before implementing any strategy. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. There, we said it.
Did I have that up?